And we're back. More FMK at the movies. Guys,
we're doing this one first.
Yeah, we're doing this one first.
Yeah, surprise!
Surprise, motherfucker! It's okay.
All right.
We all watched it. I was in the room. I can confirm that everybody here watched Your Name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was doing some research, some reading beforehand. Turns out this is a remake. It's based on a novel that was written in 1972, first adapted into a film in 1976 starring a young Jodie Foster. Then again, there was a made-for-TV movie in the 90s, and then in 2003 with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan.
Lohan, I think.
Yes, thank you, Lohan.
Yeah.
So in this version, rather than in the first version, it was unexplained. In the second version, it was because of a magic fortune cookie. In this version, it's because of a comet that two characters switch bodies, switch lives. Scott's shaking his head. Scott, why don't you tell us about the plot of this movie?
So, Kimi no Na wa, or Your Name, is a film by Makoto Shinkai, I would say up-and-coming director, but by and large, he's been doing a lot of films for the last decade that have made quite a hit in Japan. He's known as the Cloud Guy because he does really, really stinking good clouds.
Yeah.
Which, even if you're unfamiliar with them, you'll probably notice that the backgrounds in this film are absolutely beautiful, and his sky shots are remarkable. They're unparalleled by basically any other medium I've ever seen, actually. He's just, for some reason, really good with clouds. I forgot that I'd be the guy, talking about this film, leading on this film. So I wish I'd done a little bit more research.
It's okay, I did the research. I gave it all, the whole backstory.
I know where it's from.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is his latest film, and it was a really big hit in Japan. It is the highest grossing anime film of 2017, and I think maybe of all time.
People might know him from Voices of a Distant Star. That's probably the biggest title I can think of that people would think when they think of Shinkai. They think of, because he worked. I think that was just him, right?
I think
he do, most of that whole fucking movie?
that was literally just him and a couple other people.
Yeah.
He was the director on that. He was the lead animator on that. He was also the writer, which. I like Makoto Shinkai as an artist and an animator. As a writer, he's a bit perfunctory.
He has a few kind of traits, a few gimmicks, but I like what he did though. So old movie, but it's cool.
So let's talk about this movie. It opens on, as all great films do, on boobs.
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What it actually opens on is a beautiful scene of the comic. But yeah, no, there are boobs too. To give a basic breakdown, a young girl, Mitsuha Miyamizu, who lives out in the boonies, Itomori, which I don't even know if that's an actual place in Japan.
I don't think it is.
I'm pretty sure it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
I don't think it is.
Lives with her grandma, Hitoha, and her little sister, Yotsuha.
Good one.
After her mother, Futaba died. Now, by the way, for all of you in the audience who don't know why I find that all their names super funny,
it's good.
Hitotsu, Futatsu, Mitsu, Yotsu. That's first, second, third, and fourth.
Her name is just kind of like four.
Yeah, her name is third.
Yeah, her name is third, but Yotsuha is like, you're the fourth one.
Yep.
I don't know what to name you. Here you go.
Okay, so they're the Borgs. Got it.
Yes.
So she lives a boring country life out in Itomori with her friends, Teshi? Yeah, Teshi, and I cannot forget her. Sayu? I think it was Sayu.
Another girl.
Yeah. As an English-speaking person, it's really difficult for me to memorize a lot of these very Japanese names. So.
This is why I use nicknames in my summaries.
And she's also a shrine maiden. Because her family has been running the Miyamizu Shrine for many, 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 many years. And so she has a big shrine, what do you call it?
What word? Practice? Recital? Ceremony?
Ceremony. She has a big ceremony coming. Yeah. She has a very big ceremony coming up, and she's very stressed out by this. And her day-to-day life is not very interesting, and she wants to be somewhere else. At one point, she yells out into the dark, into the void, "In my next life, make me a cool Tokyo boy."
Now, is Tokyo a real place in Japan? Or did
Might
they
be.
make that up for the movie too?
I think I've seen it in an article or two.
Okay.
Lindsay Lohan came from there, so I think it is.
Yes. Not to be confused with Lindsay Lohan, who's American.
Yeah, Lindsay Lohan is Tokyo native.
Yes.
And then we have Taki. Now, I could not tell you Taki's last name for the life of me because they actually very rarely say Taki's last name.
I don't think it's. If it's said, I never picked up on it.
Yeah, no one needs to say his last name because 99% of the time he's hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
But Taki just so happens to be a cool Tokyo boy. And when I say cool, I mean he's a boy who lives in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And he lives a very regular life out in Tokyo. He goes to school, hangs out with his friends, works a part-time job at an Italian restaurant, which I've actually I've seen it. I did not go in there, but I've seen the place that they modeled that off of. It's not actually an Italian restaurant, funny enough. But yeah, no. By the way, watching this film is incredible because if you've ever been to Japan, if you've ever been to Shinjuku especially, they got it all right. It's Shinjuku. They even have Lumines, the same shops. You'll see Kodak up on the it's incredible.
Now, Scott, what you've just described sounds like the most boring movie in the world. Why don't you tell the people what the plot, what the concept, the conceit of the movie is?
Well, at the beginning of the movie, Taki wakes up, looks down, and sees a pair of breasts.
Whose breasts?
They end up being Mitsuha's breasts.
Now, how could he look down and see breasts that belong to a girl who is not him?
Because as you would say, the conceit of this film is that Taki and Mitsuha have switched bodies, which this is a classic trope, as you've just made quite apparent. But what this film does, and the big issue, or at least the big twist here, is that it's a guy and a girl switching bodies. And it is exceptionally fun and funny, especially in that first scene where he's figuring out that he's a girl, and the scene where Mitsuha has to figure out that she's a boy.
I joked saying, the first scene was him playing with the girl's breasts, and when it opened on the scene with the girl in the boy's body, I'm joking. Well, now strap in for 20 seconds of her just playing with his dick and figuring out what that's all about. It's a little less explicit because they can't show a dick on screen, but yeah, no, that's exactly what happens. I was just joking.
Yeah, no, she instantly figures out there's something down there.
Yeah.
Which, as a man, I'm not always cognizant that it's there. But I can imagine that as a girl who has never had one, it might become very quickly apparent that there's something rubbing up against your thigh.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we don't think about it, but every time you sit down, it's like, well, don't sit on my balls.
This movie plays a lot with I adore this because for the reasons you mentioned, it has a lot of realistic elements of Shinjuku in it, and the countryside. Even if the city is real, cool, it looks fantastic. I can believe it is, and that's the thing that matters. All of this feels very much realistic, and it's kind of like this magical realism. We're switching bodies back and forth, and who knows how that happens? Whatever, it's just happening. And then they always have the characters throughout all of it, throughout all these circumstances, are very grounded, and I really appreciate that they are I would absolutely be feeling myself up if I turned into a girl. And of course the girl would be doing the same thing.
So to expand a little more on what exactly is going on, so neither of them knows why they're switching bodies. Yeah. Neither of them knows the other one. In fact, one of the first things that happens is I believe it's the boy sees in his notebook after he's been hearing all this stuff that he supposedly did the day before that he doesn't remember because he was off in the girl's body at the time. He sees in his notebook, "Who are you?" And so they start writing messages, leaving messages to each other, and coming up with a system and figuring out, okay, this seems to happen a couple of days a week. It always happens while we're asleep. Let's set some ground rules. No touching, no getting with anybody while you're living my life. That's not cool.
And what I really like that this film does is that, so Japan has very defined gender roles. This is just a fact, of the way that Japan works, especially in their media, and they play a lot with that here. She, when she talks about wanting to go to Tokyo, I want to go to a cafe. I want to, I want to see these wonderful buildings. Like I want to meet cool people. Is basically she wants to get out there and live the cool Tokyo life. So the first opportunity she gets to go to a cafe, she jumps on it. She is so excited about the fact that she gets to go to a cafe, and she just orders this huge pile of pancakes, and this becomes a recurring theme. She gets to do these things that she really wants to do. Meanwhile, it's kind of curious because Taki, on the other hand, it's kind of a question of what exactly he gets out of it, and you learn that more throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's not like, so let me drop the pretense here. I was dropping heavy references to Freaky Friday. In that series of remakes of movies, the two people involved who swap simultaneously wish to swap, and that's sort of like implied to be what triggered that. In this one, Mitsuha?
Yeah.
Yeah, she very explicitly wishes for Taki's life. Taki never seemingly has much dissatisfaction with his or wish to be a country girl and shrine maiden. He just kind of gets dumped into this and has to deal with it.
Which, in and of itself, is interesting because, well, you definitely could have had them both wanting for something. This seems like the more realistic scenario of, no, he didn't want particularly anything, but as we figure out, there are things that he gets out of it, things that he learns about himself. It's not that he needed this experience, but it does give him something. It gives him a look at, spirituality, like the lives of these people outside of his sphere. And it's very interesting because...
And most obviously, femininity, because Mitsuha... Turns out she freaking kills as Taki.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing a more feminine energy to his life. She's picking up his hot boss at the Italian restaurant.
And one of my favorite sines in the film.
Yeah.
Like, there's this... So, to break down the scene, Mitsuha has taken over Taki's body and forgotten that he has finds out that he has a part-time job at this Italian restaurant. So... she does her best. She's never had to work a job before, not this kind of job especially, and not as a man. So when a customer decides to scam the restaurant and puts a toothpick in a piece of his pizza, saying, "Oh man, what if I'd been into it? I could have hurt myself." Unfamiliar with the situation, Mitsuha then fires back quite honestly, "I don't even think this restaurant has toothpicks." Which, first of all, that's not so uncommon in Japan. I could not imagine many restaurants in America, especially sit-down places, that don't have toothpicks. But, so, of course, the scammer then gets, much more hard-headed about it, to which her boss then swoops in. She's like, "Don't worry, I got this."
Yep.
Sends her off. And for some reason, and I feel like this was kind of just to push the scene along, the scammer also ends up taking out an X-Acto knife and cuts the boss's skirt, which is all set up for, she figures it out later. She's really embarrassed and frustrated. So Mitsuha, as Taki, swoops in and is like, "I got this."
Actually, her exact words are, "Take off your skirt."
Oh, well, no. Before she then, takes her into the back room and then says, "Take off your skirt." And as we figured out that Mitsuha was actually a rather good seamstress. Had done a lot of work at her shrine with her grandma, and just very, very quickly and very adequately sews up the skirt with this cute little hedgehog design.
Not just adequately, she makes this a better skirt with a cute little cross-stitched design in there to cover up where it had been ripped.
By the way, hedgehogs, really big in Japan right now. Don't know if you know. And so fixes that up, and her boss just has the biggest lady boner for him at that point. Yeah, just like, wow, okay, first of all, you tried to stand your ground with that customer, and the second thing is you actually, you know how to sew, and you're sweet, and you're friendly, and walks home with him. And then the next day, Taki gets back into work as himself, and his coworkers are pissed.
Yeah. The words "bro code" are uttered.
Yeah.
Because apparently everybody has been after this sexy boss.
Yes.
And they are,
And you look at her, dude. I'm wondering if women like her even exist in real life. She's calm. She's cool. She's collected. She's hot as hell. She smokes, but only occasionally, and she looks so good when she does it.
Yeah.
She's super patient with Taki's bullshit. It's like this. I can't remember her name.
Okudera.
Us, Miss Okudera to you. And she's so, I love her. But she's almost a little unrealistic in just how, like,
Yeah, well, and she fades she fades into being a side character past this point, but she's still around. But yeah, she's real cool.
We're also introduced to Taki's two classmates, Glasses and Not Glasses.
Yeah,
they're fine. I think actually the best scene with them is where Glasses talks about Taki the day after he changes back from being Mitsuha, because when he was Mitsuha, he was very demure and very shy because, well, how wouldn't you be? And he flat out says, I don't know, he was kind of cute yesterday. And I'm like, see, it doesn't even need to be about him being gay. I just like the idea, like, these characters are seeing things that they really like in them when their personalities have changed. It's just a really cute moment.
Yeah, I like too that the whole love interest angle with Okudera is pretty quickly dropped. Like, she likes Mitsuha, she quickly figures out this is not what he's like most of the time.
In a very sad scene.
A little bit, yeah.
Because so Mitsuha and Taki keep switching back and forth, and Mitsuha, it's kind of interesting because, like, there's some stuff to talk about with, like, gender and sex in this. She's got kind of this, like, dream fulfillment out of dating Okudera as Taki. Like, she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get him a date. But then when she switches back and Taki's the one actually going on the date, she's depressed. But you then find out that she's been doing this with Taki because she's developing these ideas and these feelings for him. But when Taki goes on this date with Okudera, it's not terrible. It's not a train wreck. Like,
but Lady Boner deflated.
No, she like,
still likes him just fine. They're good friends after this, but
they're good friends.
Yep.
But she very quickly, like, and she tells him flat out, like, you seem like a different person.
Yeah, and Taki, to his credit, this movie could easily, from this point, have been Taki learning to embrace his feminine side and getting the girl, and that is not what this movie is, and I appreciated that.
Okay, so this is actually a point of contention. There are some people who got very frustrated about what we're about to talk about. By the way, if you have not seen Your Name...
Yeah, it's spoilers from this point
stop.
forward.
Just cut this off. I'm serious. Stop watching.
You have to see this for yourself.
You have to see this because halfway through the film, shit changes. I did not expect this. Nobody who has seen this film expected this.
Yeah, because up until this point, it's, it's a cute, quirky, magical. It is basically Freaky Friday, the Japan edition.
And that's cool.
Yeah, and that's fine.
If the film had been this all the way through, it may not have been as impactful or different. I still would have enjoyed it because the first half of this film is so fun and so sweet.
Honestly, I think if it had kept going, it might have dragged, might have been a little cliche. I might not have liked it as much.
Yeah.
But instead what happens is I think there's like a 3-week period where all of a sudden, for no reason that either of them can determine, they stop switching.
Yes.
They're just themselves all the time.
Yes. And this happens on the date date night with Okudera. He even tries to call her for the first time. And nothing happens.
Yeah, they're trying to call each other's cell because, by this point they've been able to exchange a certain amount of information. So it's like, well, okay, if we're not going to be swapping anymore, let's meet. But they can't get a hold of each other.
Yeah. And so, sometime, I think about 3 weeks goes by, he kind of forgets about it. And then there's something that kind of starts digging at the back of his mind. I think he starts drawing Itamori.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then he's like, I've seen this. But why and where?
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing that we haven't touched on is that their memories of each other's lives start fading almost immediately as soon as they wake up as themselves.
Yeah, it should be noted that while they remember that this is happening after it's done, they don't actually remember any of the events that took place. Like, they have vague ideas. Sometimes they wake up crying. But they don't know they don't remember any of their conversations, their actions, which lead to a couple of very funny scenes where, one of my favorites being Mitsuha's girlfriend telling her, like, yeah, you've been doing this, you've been doing that. She's been kicking over her desk when people shit talk her mayor dad, who's a corrupt asshole who's trying to get reelected, and is getting love letter notes from girls and guys. So it's great. But he starts to remember stuff.
Yep.
And it's not the first time he's felt stuff about it, but this is the first time in like 3 weeks that he has like it's really rung back to him. And so he decides that he's going to go find this place. He has a general idea of the location, but not, he can't remember the name. So he tells one of his friends, Glass's friend, that he's going to go out there. Glass's friend meets up with him with Okudera.
Yep.
And they're like, well, I guess we're all going to go, the three amigos, off to bumfuck Japan.
And this is the thing that is maybe slightly less realistic about this movie, is that each of these tertiary friend characters are the most agreeable people you will ever meet.
Yeah,
like never question any of this weirdness, just like, oh yeah, we're going to the boonies for no apparent reason, just because you want to go. Sure, we'll go with you.
Well, he does say, like, there's a girl, there's someone I met, and there's someone I know out there, and I can't remember, but I need to go find her.
Yeah. But yeah, again, no questions like, what do you mean you don't have her number or know her name or what town she's from? But it's very important that you go meet her. This seems weird.
I think the big thing is that they realized, like, he's been in a weird place the last couple of weeks. Like, they mention it, and they even give their reasoning of why they're doing this. It's just, it's kind of interesting, and maybe this is kind of a Japanese thing, I don't know. But they're like, he's changed a lot lately, and there's something about him that, it's obvious that he's gotten nicer and friendlier, and it's due to this person. Like, we can tell, like, this person has had an effect on him. So they most likely do exist, and we want to help him because they care about him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Okudera, even after their bad date, as you said, is still good friends with him. And Glass's friend has been friends with him for a long time, and you can tell that they're besties. So they both see... And if I were to go out of my way, I would definitely say there might be feelings from both of them toward Taki, especially with that scene earlier with Glass's boy. But they're there to be to support him and look out for him. And yeah, they go out. Like, I've been out this way in Japan, by the way. Like, I've been to Shiro Ishizao, and there's there's little ramen shops and there's little train stations, and there's not a whole lot to do. And they go the whole day without finding anything, and they're about to give up. But they stop at this little ramen joint, and he's looking at the picture that he drew. And one of the waitresses comes by and is like, that is remarkable. That is, like, spot on. She calls one of the, I think, like, the cook or the owner over, and he's like, that is Itamori. That is perfectly Itamori. And I don't know if we saw him earlier in the film. I feel like we might have. But this is the first time I think we see him proper, and maybe we saw him earlier, but you could tell, like, instantly he's got a connection with this place by the way that he's looking at the picture, and he's like, and once he says Itamori, everyone lights up like, wait, that Itamori?
The one that was destroyed 3 years ago?
By a meteor? Yeah. So, they go to Itamori, and it's a crater.
Yeah, it is
It's
literal crater.
It's technically two craters.
Yeah, the first is the lake that the town had been built around. That had been a crater for, I think they said, like 1,200 years.
Yeah, spoilers. But you're already this far in, so.
Yeah, we gave our spoiler warning.
Yeah. And secondarily, the one that was created 3 years ago, when the same meteor came by after 1,200 years, split from its nucleus, and turned this place into, a double crater.
Yep.
And...
It is two, like, overlapping lakes that look like a figure eight.
Yeah.
Now.
And it is a really startling scene.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what to expect. Like, by and large, this film had been very upfront with what it seemed like its premise and everything. And, when the memories, like, when the switching stopped, you just kind of think to yourself, oh, something must have happened. Maybe it was the meteor coming by, and now he's off to find her. And once he does, what will it be like?
Turns out she's dead.
Yeah, it turns out she's dead. And her friends are dead.
Yep.
And her family is dead.
And, like, a third of this town, apparently.
Yeah. 500 people dead.
Yeah. And this was all 3 years ago. So all this body swapping that they've been doing, we are now privy to know, has also been time swapping.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been going 3 years into his past. She's been going 3 years into her future.
And it is, as I said, it is a really startling scene. And it just kind of keeps getting more depressing from there. Because you figure, like, you get to follow Taki as he, like, studies up what the hell happened. He finds their names in, like, an obituary. It's really sad, and like you don't know what he's going to do. But even if this is a Makoto Shinkai film and he's known for having kind of bittersweet endings, Taki does remember one particular thing that happened earlier in the film. One of the times, so she's a shrine maiden. Mitsuha is, not Taki. Although I think he might have been a shrine maiden once or twice. So she, during her ceremony, makes. Do you remember the name of it? Something
I can't
sake,
remember.
Sake?
It's some form of sake where they chew rice and spit it out and let it ferment.
Yeah, they chew the rice, spit it out, let it ferment, and it becomes alcohol. And it's a really cool idea, actually. I love that. Like that kind of the oldest sake that was ever made. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of gross, but cool.
Yeah.
And so during one of their body switches, they actually go to the like this ancient like. The Miyamizu Shrines rock, like this, or basically, I don't know. I think, was it another crater, or was it just like?
I don't know if it was a crater or if it was like the peak of an inactive volcano.
Ooh, I bet I know what it was.
What's that?
That was when it hit 2,400 years ago.
Very well could have been.
Yeah, that's the rock there. The other one made the lake, and then that like it just keeps boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So they go there, and in there they leave the sake. They leave two, one from Mitsuha and one from Yotsuha, and he was a part of that. He got to see that. He got to put it there. That which kind of sucks, for Mitsuha. She wasn't able to take part in that, but him knowing that, he thinks to himself, if there's any way that I'm going to see her again, because Hitoha, Mitsuha's grandmother, tells him everything is connected. Time, it twines together and then comes apart, which I think is all about the meteor coming in. Like, that's their fates intertwining. By the way, this movie plays a lot with the red string of fate, which is huge in Asian culture. And so he goes there, goes to the shrine, sits down, drinks the sake, and
it goes into this trippy psychedelic
This
dream
awesome
sequence.
sequence. It's the coolest shit.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this whole sequence all by itself could have been some music video or some
Yeah.
short film, and it would have still been 100% effective because
He's passing through water. He's seeing flashbacks from her life, from her being born, from before Mitsuha being born.
yeah, giving you a lot of background on Mitsuha, which, while not wholly necessary, definitely colors in a lot of bits of her character and the importance of her life. And it's a beautiful scene. Like, I cannot tell you how really good this scene is. It's like at one point Makoto Shinkai was like, I need this scene. I need this whole scene to happen, and it's just gonna be, oh man.
Yeah, and that culminates in this scene where the two of them are running around the rim.
Oh no, that happens later.
Does that happen
That
later?
happens
that's
when,
later.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this one, he wakes up in her body, remember? And
That's right.
It's the morning of the autumn festival, aka the day where the meteor hits. So she's
Taki as
Taki.
Mitsuha.
Yeah, Taki's like, I got a chance. I can do this. I can save everyone. I mean,
Comes up with this plan with Mitsuha's two best friends.
Teshi and Sayu.
Yeah, that one of them's gonna. I wasn't following it too much because I was at this point so engrossed by the art and the music and
Yeah,
everything.
no,
the
yeah.
specifics of this plan don't really matter too much, but here's how I remember it. The Seiyu is going to go to the schools. She's in the school's broadcasting club. They figure out a way to patch her into the town's emergency broadcast system so that she can tell everybody, you got to evacuate to the high school.
Because there's a fire.
Yeah, which is just outside of what Taki knows to be the impact radius. Meanwhile, Teshi,
Yeah.
who is the son of a construction contractor,
And earlier in the film was told to study up on explosives because they were going to be doing construction with them.
yep, He's going to go blow up a power substation, which this is where it started to stretch credulity a little, that on the basis of very little, he's like, fuck yeah, I'll commit this terrorist act. It's fine.
Yeah, no, again, these friends are the best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
easily the best friends you could ever have.
Like, yo, Scott, I love you, man. Kieran, I love you. If one of you said, Ben, we gotta blow up this power substation, just trust me, this is important. I don't know, guys. I would have more questions than Teshi does. Let's put it that way.
I think, like, here's the thing. Teshi, I could believe doing it 100% though, because as you learn about Teshi, he's also kind of fed up with this life. Like at the beginning of the film, you think, oh no, he likes this. No, he makes it pretty quickly apparent that he's bored and he's done with like all of this. And he's also into a lot of stuff like the occult and aliens. And I think at this
My
point,
man.
yeah, at this point, he's like, you know what? Screw it. This is the most interesting thing that's ever happened in my life. Let's go blow up a substation.
Well, and here's the thing. It may sound like I'm criticizing, and I guess I am, but what I would not have wanted is a 20-minute scene where he's brought around to believing, because that would have slowed down the pacing. It would have been
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
I am willing to go with this because it keeps everything moving.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they blow up the substation. And oh, by the way, so interesting thing, just as a side note. So when Sayu gets on the radio, it actually works a little bit better in Japanese because she has a way of speaking that the NHK use, like basically a broadcasting lingo and voice that she is studied up on. So she, like in the English version, she kind of comes off as just a little girl using the radio. In the Japanese version, she's actually using, like, she sounds more official because she knows what she's doing. She sounds like an actual person who would be giving this announcement.
Yeah. So that's their parts in this plan. Taki as Mitsuha, her part is, since her dad is the mayor, she knows he can put a kibosh on all of this. She, Mitsuha, needs to go talk to the mayor and convince him, like, no, you gotta let us evacuate. This is gonna be real bad. You need to trust me. He goes, he does this, and he fails.
Yeah.
The mayor is having none of this, like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking crazy. You need to go to the hospital, aka acting like a normal, responsible human being would in this situation.
And Taki's response is completely understandable. He walks over, grabs him by the tie, and is about to, like, slug him.
Or something.
Yeah. And that's when the dad looks down and he, like, just like the grandmother realized, this isn't my daughter. It's like, who are you? And it's a really, like, I love that. I love the idea of just this obvious personality change that is so strong that he can see something there. And that's when Taki realizes, no, there's no way I'm going to be able to get through to him. But Mitsuha could.
Yep.
And so they've never figured out how to do this. But at that point, they're like, wait, if I'm over there, and what if I went over there? And so Taki, as Mitsuha, decides, I'm going to go find my body at the shrine. And if even if my body's not there, my soul's there, right? So he goes to the shrine. Mitsuha, as Taki, wakes up in the shrine like, what the fuck? Why am I here? Gets up, and this is the scene you were talking about.
So they are in the same place, separated by 3 years, and in each other's bodies. And they're running around the rim of this, might be a crater, might be an active volcano. I like the crater theory, but we don't know.
And it's a beautiful scene because as you see Mitsuha and Taki's body running, you see the two craters. But then it switches to Taki and Mitsuha's body, and you see Itamori and the lake.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, no, these are two different times coming together in this beautiful, like...
And it's just at dusk, which has already been set up multiple times in the movie, as dusk is the time when day and night mingle, when two different times can connect.
So they meet up, the sun goes down, and then they're there, in their own bodies, for the first time meeting each other.
In this, like, in-between state.
And it's a very sweet, very short scene where, like, she knows that he's been playing with her boobs and her body.
Oh yeah, we kind of skipped over one of the more adorable scenes.
Oh, well, we can go back. We can talk about that later.
All right.
They talk a little bit, and there's this very soft little warm moment, and it's really nice. Also, one other thing that they talked about in this film, which you don't see, which is very intelligently set up, very brilliantly set up, but it is, if you blink, you will miss the details that lead up to you being able to understand what happened. The day before all of this went, all the shit went down, she goes to Tokyo.
Yeah, she had independently 3 years earlier decided, but not knowing that they were time shifted yet, decided, I'm going to find this boy that 3 weeks ago I was in his body half the time.
And so she goes out there, looks for him, and
she finds him.
But he is noticeably younger and shorter, and also doesn't know who she is.
Because it's 3 years earlier for him.
But she doesn't realize that there's a time difference. She's just like, that's him. I know that. That's him. That's his face. That's doesn't even process that he's younger and shorter. Goes over, and gets his attention, and it's obvious that, nope, I don't know who you are, girl. Weird girl talking to me on train. I'm just trying to read my flashcards for English. And, at the very last scene, as the train, they're on a train. They're in the middle of, they're on a train going to Yoyogi. And as the train funnels out, she's like, remember me. My name is Mitsuha. And she takes this red ribbon that she probably made herself, that she's been wearing in her hair the entire movie. And it's been a whole plot point that she's been wearing this ribbon. She takes it off, throws it to him, and throughout the film, he's had the ribbon on his wrist.
Yeah, and when asked about it, he says, "Yeah, I don't really remember where I got this. I want to say somebody really important gave it to me. I don't know. It's kind of my lucky charm."
Yeah, and this is the scene where he gives it back to her. And funny enough, it's been a day since she gave it up.
Yep.
But it's been 3. Memento is now 3 years older, and it has followed him around. And it's a beautiful, beautiful idea. Gives her back the ribbon. She puts it back in her hair. They laugh,
Yep.
And then he's like, "Okay, you've got a job to do."
Yep.
But he's like, "Wait, before we go, so we don't forget who we are again, let's write our names on our palms." And he tells this to her while he writes it down. And she's like, "Oh yeah, great idea." Takes it, gets one swipe in, and the marker falls to the ground.
Yep, because now it's fully nighttime, and their one chance to cross over, done.
And so the rest of the movie is just barrels downhill until near the end. And I mean, not quality-wise.
Yeah, barrels forward.
Yeah, barrels forward. It's all down here in terms of getting to the end.
It's falling action, not falling quality.
Yeah. And that she goes around. She oh gosh.
I don't think they really show. They show her getting up to her father and making her attempt.
Well, at first, her friends get caught.
Yeah.
She tries to go to her friends, tries to convince people. Doesn't work.
Yeah,
doesn't
because
work.
by this point, the mayor has taken back over the broadcast system and has said, "Nope, everybody, everything's fine. There's been an explosion at the power substation. Just stay where you are," which we know and they know. No, if you stay where you are, you're gonna die.
And there's a scene where she's losing hope. She does not know what to do. He can't remember her name because he didn't get it written on her hand or on his hand. She is running, barreling. We don't even know where she's running to at this point, and it takes a very bad tumble. It is a very painful looking tumble where she just falls over, and then she just looks like she's defeated, and she's like, "I can't remember his name," and then she realizes, wait, my hand. She opens up her hand, and it just says "Tsukida," which in this context is "I love you." And her response to that is so heartbreaking. That doesn't help me right now at all.
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking. It's easily the most emotional scene in the film. But then she gets back up and she's like, whether or not it's to save these people or if it's just to see him again, I have to do something. So she runs to her father, and the last scene we see with her is she runs into his office, looks at her, And her father even says, "You're back," and cuts away.
Yeah, I want to say that's when it shows like the impact and the explosion.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing like, the comet fragments falling. It's
Which-
again beautifully animated sequence.
Yeah.
And I want to call us this isn't a disaster movie. So when I call us the money shot, it's sad. Like when you see it hit Itamori, it's like,
Yeah, because you don't know if she's succeeded or not. And I thought there was a strong possibility because they've established a third of this town died, which to my mind, this town got struck by a meteor. My thinking was that's how many people she and her friends had gotten over to the high school before the dad took over the emergency broadcast system. I thought we were dealing with closed time loop.
Yeah.
They had saved that many people, and if it hadn't been for them, those people would have all died. So it's not that they accomplished nothing, but, bittersweet ending, that was the
Yeah.
best that could be done.
but
Turns out,
so Taki decides 5 years go by. 5 years.
yep, well, and we find out,
Well, because after 5 years, he gets reminded of Itamori. Because he's, by the way, one of his whole entire things is that he's been looking to get a job as
an architect.
an architect. And one of the things that he's always talked about is I want to make a place that people remember. I want to make a place that touches our hearts. And he got this from Itamori. You could tell he saw Itamori. Itamori, say what you will about the boonies of anywhere, but those little villages in Japan are beautiful. They've got beautiful scenery, beautiful old buildings, and he took a lot from that. And he's reminded of Itamori by Okudera. They go on a little they just hang out. And she reminds him remember that time we went to we went to Itamori, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, why did we do that?
And then he looks it up again, and that's when he finds out that there were injuries, but nobody died.
Yeah, and there's all these occult, conspiracy theory, what actually happened in Itamori, because this just strains credulity, and
Yeah.
nobody's ever found a satisfying explanation for.
How did they evacuate all those people? Because apparently it was a what do you call it? Drill. It was evacuation drill.
Yeah, that seems to be the agreed upon story, since there's no better explanation. Nobody wanted to bring these kids up on charges after they saved everybody, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
couldn't exactly excuse blowing up a power station either. So apparently everybody just kind of agreed to say, yeah, this is sort of what happened.
There's a lot of things that would have had to gone into that, considering that people saw explosions, and why would you do a drill on the night of a festival? There's a lot of
Yeah.
nothing will ever satisfy anybody until the last person who was there is dead.
Yeah, well, and they didn't really explain exactly what happened, but you reading between the lines, it seems like as good an explanation as any.
Yeah, and it's heavily implied that Mitsuha talked her father into getting the right people out there and evacuating the town.
Yep.
Which would have had to have been they maybe had 15 minutes to do that, because the meteor had already split from the nucleus. That mother was coming.
Yeah.
So it's it strains a little bit of the credulity there, as well as the time frame that would have happened, but we accept it because again we're moving forward.
And so the last plot thread, the last character thread to deal with is, but Taki and Mitsuha still don't remember each other. They don't remember each other's names. At this point, it's being repeated. What was your name? What
Yeah.
was your name?
And so on just a random day, they're both on the way to wherever they're going. They're on the train, and this shot is really good, by the way, because I've been in a train with another train passing by. You can, this totally happens. It's two trains 2 feet away from each other, just going side by side. They look right and left, and then they see each other.
They lock eyes.
And they're like, "You, I know you. I've been looking for you." And then the train split.
Yep.
And they get off the train and they run towards each other's stations. And then they see each other. She's at the top of the stairs. He's at the bottom. And then they start walking, and then they just pass each other. And for a moment there,
Yep.
you're
It lets it hang just long enough for you to think, oh man, this is it. This is the end.
Yeah,
bittersweet ending.
but they turn around and he's like, "Have I ever met you somewhere before?" And she turns around and they're both just crying. She's like, I swear I was thinking the same thing. Can mind if I ask, what's your name? Credits.
Yeah.
Pan up to the beautiful sky.
So the person whose opinion I am the most curious about, we've already seen it. But regardless of whether or not we'd already seen it, the person's opinion about this film I'm most curious about is yours. Because I think we've already kind of established that when it comes to slice of life and romance, you're very take it or leave it.
So here's the thing. We all know what our opinions are, but the people at home, Kieran, what do you think about this movie?
I have nothing to say about the plot, so that's why I've been very quiet.
You've been quiet for a while.
I
talk about what in this movie did speak to you.
The music, the presentation, the themes. There's a running the thread, as it were, throughout the whole movie is this like the red string of fate, basically. I adore how this movie plays with the idea that not only is destiny malleable, but it is something that you can come in contact with and interact with. I really enjoy how it's dealing with these characters coming into their own and realizing they have a bigger purpose than just going around their day, or they have some agency over their lives. And I really, really enjoyed that one scene where he's like seeing, oh my God, you've went through all this. I've been through a whole bunch of shit. Now, like, we understand each other all the better. The way it presents the world in this realistic sense, like everything is, there's all these licensed products everywhere. There's all this, the hustle and bustle of the town, the serenity of the country. Everything is so real and it almost photorealistic in some shots where it feels very much this could totally happen. I threw out the words magical realism earlier, but I think that is absolutely the genre I would put this under, where everything is just magical enough, but it's still grounded in reality. They could go, I could see this happening maybe in some. And if I want to like fancy that the world is this cool, that this could actually happen. And
this isn't quite Digimon.
No, yeah, it's nothing crazier than we just know each other this well and can maybe, we had a memory of that happening, but it didn't, right? So it's just really interesting. I love the characters here that just, they play so well with each other, but as you said, they totally are a little too agreeable with the side characters sometimes.
Yeah.
But the music absolutely carries these emotional moments throughout the movie.
Mind if I talk a little bit about the music?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so the music in this film is ridiculously good. There's a lot of piano tracks. It relies heavily on piano. In fact, by and large, I could not name you another instrument that is in this film other than the actual songs that are played by a band called the Radwimps. Or it might just be Radwimps.
I think it's Radwimps.
Yeah, which is right up there with Bump of Chicken for silly Japanese rock names. So, interesting fact for any of you who are looking to see Your Name, if you have not seen it in English or Japanese, or if you've only seen it in one or the other, Radwimps, the band, dubbed the songs into English. And the main singer, his English is perfectly agreeable. Like, if you'd have told me, like, it was just done by a guy in English, I would have believed you. However, the songs are better in Japanese.
Absolutely.
And that's not just me saying, it was better in the original version. No, it's like the songs are written for Japanese in terms of like the amount of like the tempo, there's a word for it.
Cadence.
The cadence. The fact that he has to basically like use these multi-syllable words consistently because it's
it has a very the tone is, it's like a 1-2 1-2 1-2 for a lot of the songs, and it doesn't work for when you're trying to say across the sky, like it doesn't work. And it goes Koko Nasora, it goes something like that. It works a lot better in Japanese because every syllable can carry that musicality.
But that being said, even with it being better in Japanese, the songs still work perfectly well in English. And they're great songs.
They're so good.
They hit every emotional beat 100. So this film has a love of montages. I think there was one montage too many, very much so. But the montages in this film are always set to one of his songs, or one of their songs, and they're so good.
Yeah.
Like they play with the visuals, they play with the beat. It's so visually captivating and it's just a wonderful watch and listen.
Yeah,
throughout.
it is. The songs, they really carry the weight of this movie. It is one of the few movie soundtracks that I will definitely give a listen to again without watching the movie, and I don't do that often.
Oh yeah, I've listened. I have I have the official soundtrack in terms of Radwimps and just the background music, and I've listened to it.
A lot of really, really good. They know how to switch the energy of like first you can almost see it in the soundtrack. The first third of the movie is like this bumping rock. Everything's like, yeah, crazy Freaky Friday. Then, oh, let's get a little twinkly piano. Everyone's dead. And then you get and then in the third act, it's like, oh man, everyone's alive, but I don't know who I'm looking for. Just a little more. You know, it's just like a lot of, it ends with this little bittersweet thing, and oh, it's great.
Yeah, by the way, that last song, like, just a little more. Yeah, no, that one in Japanese is way more effective.
Yeah, skoshi dake dai. A lot better.
Yeah.
Good on you for trying.
But yeah, it's beautiful to watch, beautiful to listen to. I remember one point somebody had to go to the bathroom and we just freezed on one frame incidentally, and it was of Teshi's room. I think it was Teshi's room.
Yeah, Teshi's room.
And just looking at that still frame, waiting for someone to get back from the bathroom, we're picking out like, oh shit, that's a Dreamcast controller, and that's a PS1, and that's an orange GameCube.
Yeah, he's got the good taste. He's got a Famicom over there, all this other stuff. Stuff you wouldn't even, like, given the time you have on that frame, you wouldn't see half of these details.
Oh, yeah, not a quarter of them if you were just watching it. It made me wonder out loud, how many more frames are like this in this movie that if we just randomly paused, we could sit there for about 5 straight minutes and just find new little details.
Absolutely.
This film is nothing but desktop backgrounds of the movie.
Yeah, like that's what I mean when I'm saying like they err on photorealism for a lot of parts, where just like there is so much happening in these backgrounds and in these frames that it's like absolutely I believe this could take place.
Do you remember that shot near the beginning of the movie where it starts on Taki? And then it's like this panoramic shot through Tokyo all the way over the mountains to Itomori.
Yeah.
That shot's insane. I don't know if a lot of the people in the audience know what the ins and outs of animation. If it weren't for computers, one, that shot could never do that. And two, even with computers, that shot's crazy.
Yeah, they use a lot of really cool texture work to make like the mountains, and like there's a lot of parallax scrolling in the background, and they hand draw like rows of trees that move at different rates to give the impression that it's off in the distance, and it looks so cool. And honestly, this is probably one of my favorite uses of CG in a film, because it is the only blatantly CG things that stand out are the cars. Whatever, I've accepted that, and it looks fine.
Yeah, I too have accepted that in anime. Cars are now all CG.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever, that's cool, I get it. But for like the cityscapes, like, oh, they look so good moving, like fluidly, the ones just kind of staying in the background, everyone in the foreground moving faster, and they use CG really, really efficiently throughout this entire film to get those really awesome sweeping shots. It looks so good.
Yeah, and as I said, I've been to Shinjuku twice in the last 2 years. Every time I see this film, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing things that I saw in person. I am like, I know what the hustle and bustle of Shinjuku is like. I know where Yoyogi train station. I was at the station where they met. Like, it was crazy and really cool. And man, I cannot talk about how beautiful this film is enough.
Yeah, it is incredible.
Yeah.
So what I will say is that, I mean, no need to gild that particular lily anymore. You guys are the ones with the vocabulary to talk about music and and art design and all that stuff. As far as storytelling, this movie, I was 100% in with all the slice of life stuff, all the Freaky Friday stuff in the first act. That was all great. The scene that I wanted to talk about, which is the first time that Taki winds up back in Mitsuha's body after that 3-week pause.
Oh, yeah.
He wakes up, and it's been a running gag, the whole thing. Every time he wakes up, he's like, oh, I have boobs again. And the little sister opens up the door and says, are you touching your boobies again? And this time, the little sister opens it up, and Taki in Mitsuha is touching the boobs with tears streaming down his face, like, yes, I found this person and this life again I thought was gone forever.
Yeah, and the sister, and then he just starts like crawling at the door for the sister.
And
She's like, oh my God.
Yeah, slams it and goes, I'm going off to school by myself. I can't deal with this. Yeah, it is at once heartwarming and hilarious. And
which considering the scenes leading up to that, it was like, yep, that was needed.
Yeah, it was a necessary piece of levity.
Yeah.
And because, as you said, it was both funny but really heartwarming because he'd made this. Touching her boobs had literally become a tradition at this point.
Yeah.
Like every time he'd take her over, it's like, yeah. And
so yeah, that all worked great for me. The back half of the movie where it's more like all of the middle stuff, the psychedelic trip and especially that scene around the volcano, that was all awesome. It was, a music video was a great way to put it. Yeah. The thing that I would take issue with, and this is a very personal criticism, a lot of people aren't going to have a problem with this, and that's fine. This is not me telling you this is bad, just me telling you how it affected me. So much of the tension of the last act, the denouement of the movie, are these two, this boy and this girl who are in love, who have this mystical, fated connection, are they going to find each other again? This is a style of fiction and of storytelling that as a very young man in high school, in college, I was very much drawn to. It's beautiful, it's poetic. It's also toxic if you try to apply this to your real life because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
There is no the one for anybody. And within the reality of this fiction, they are for each other, they are the one. The problem with this is that if you believe that somebody who is your significant other in real life is the one, then anytime there is a hiccup in your relationship, anytime there's a disagreement, it becomes an existential crisis for your relationship. Because, well, no, fate says we're supposed to be together. If we're having this problem, maybe she's not the one.
Yeah.
She's not, because nobody's the one. There's a whole lot of 0.6s and 0.7s and a couple 0.8s and 0.9s until you find someone that you're willing to round up.
That's good. I like that. I like that a lot.
But make no mistake, there is no the one.
And I don't think anybody who's ever actually been in a relationship, a healthy relationship, would disagree with that.
Yeah, nobody would. But it can make this sort of thing very frustrating.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why when you watch these films, and I think I think we have to apply the same logic that we do with violence in films, is that this is enjoyable to watch and to imagine to a certain extent. It can be exhilarating, it can be romantic, it can be sad, but it's just a movie. And these concepts apply very well to this fantasy, but it is a fantasy.
Yep. And if you have reached a point in your life where you are able to recognize fantasy for what it is and enjoy it on that level and then move on to your regular life and be fine, then awesome.
Enjoy your fantasy here because it is fully realized.
Yeah.
It is exceptionally beautiful and romantic and heartwarming.
Yeah.
But yes, I completely agree with that,
before
before we talk about this.
Yeah, the fact that this is fantasy is knowledge that took me a lot of personal pain to internalize. And so seeing that, again, for me, it leads me to roll my eyes a little bit in a way that is not a value judgment of the movie, which is entirely a product of having had to internalize that knowledge.
Yeah. And I think it goes along with what you said of it being magical realism, is that it does a very good job of making these characters in this world seem wholly grounded while still introducing elements that are completely fantastical. And the idea of being the one is one of those elements.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
I think that's a very postmodern criticism. I really like that, actually. That's really interesting. And you're totally right when it comes to that I think it's a very Hollywood fantasy that there's every romance film always kind of drives that and leads to the girlfriend going, you're the one forever, and then exactly as you said. Yeah, you touched on the magical realism kind of leading to that. I think that this is, just some fanciful idea that you go, this is a love that can transcend time. Isn't that awesome? And just as a fantastical thing, it's like, yeah, that is awesome. I enjoyed seeing that. So when it comes to that aspect, I agree with exactly what you're saying. But you gotta, as a viewer, anybody out there who maybe might be younger, might not have been around as much, and I don't want telling you Santa isn't real, basically. But
but love is bullshit.
But for what it's worth, this film is it is so good at capturing that fantastical, I want there to be this one person, but yeah, you do kind of have to have that grounded, like, I know it's not real, but hey, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Either way, I'm still going to enjoy this for what it is.
Yeah.
And I very much enjoyed this for what it is.
Yeah.
We didn't really do this officially last time, but I think we should going forward. For those of you who may not be familiar with our formula here at Anime FMK, we go through every week and we give everything a fuck or a kill.
Yeah, he's on
okay,
it.
cool,
He's
cool.
got it.
Awesome. We don't have our thingies, but we're
Yeah,
going to get our
oh
thingies.
yeah, we totally should. That's a great idea. We should do that.
Yeah, we should have our cards. Totally forgot about that.
No, it's all good.
Although,
here they come.
So it's sort of interesting because when it comes to a film,
Yeah, so in our normal weekly show, we a kill means that we don't watch. It's a vote for we don't watch it anymore. A fuck is a vote for let's watch it again next week. For a film, this doesn't offer that same function.
yes. So for this, I would say that the kill is we did not like this movie.
Yeah.
The fuck was no. This was a good enough movie to watch.
Yeah, it's a pretty generic thumbs up, thumbs down, recommend, do not recommend. Kieran, you gonna fuck this movie? You gonna kill this movie?
I am absolutely going to fuck this movie. I love what it does. Visuals alone, I can watch this movie in Swedish and still enjoy it. I can watch it in a language I wouldn't understand, not subtitled, and it is just absolutely breathtaking. It's enamoring. It does something really cool with the structure of fiction. I love how it works in time travel. I was not expecting that, but hey, when it happened, I was like, no way, because I'm a mark for time travel in any story. It's the hardest thing to write, and I'm really happy with how they did it. I love how they portray Japan. As someone that's been there, I think we've all been there before. As someone that has been to Japan, it reflected everything I loved about it, and it was
It's very idealized Japan. I won't lie.
absolutely just like in my best memories. That's what Japan looks like. So. On those merits, it is totally worth it. Absolutely see this movie. Listen to the soundtrack. It is so fun. Absolutely fuck it.
Scott.
I would marry this movie.
Yeah, if we had
I'm
those.
going to hold up my fuck, but I would marry this movie in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we're gonna need to make Mary cards sooner or later, but we don't have them yet.
I think we will. We'll have something special for that when we actually get to it. This film. Hold on. I'm going to hold this up just so I can get a. So, by the way, about the English dub, just real quick. Good dub.
Yeah, dub's good.
Yeah, it's a very good dub. It's honestly, it works a lot better in Japanese just because there's a lot of Japanese language stuff there, but otherwise, you can watch the dub or sub, be happy. This film has made me cry on a couple of occasions. It is an amazing love story. Like, when it comes to love stories, it's hard to really hit home with me a lot of the time because, when it comes to romance in Hollywood or in films, it's all these idealized ideas of, like, the one and this and that, and no, this is just beautiful. This is touching. This goes out of its way with its music, with its visuals, with its characters to just deliver this experience that is wholeheartedly its own. Makoto Shinkai is an amazing director. And the funny thing is, he went out of his way to say that he was making a simple film this time. He wanted a simple film, a simple concept.
I can't wait to see his complicated one next.
And here's one little extra thing for those of us who are familiar with the Japanese language that makes that scene where they're writing down each other's names, and he writes down "I love you." So was she. That's not how you start the hiragana for me.
Yeah.
She was writing Sue. The moment I heard that, I cried. I couldn't hold it back because I'm like, they both had the same idea.
Yeah.
This film is so good, you guys. And if you haven't watched it and sat through all of this, I'm sad we spoiled things for you, but seriously, do watch this film. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and I love it.
Well, guys, I hate to be the one dissenter. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a monster. No, this film is great. I did levy some criticisms at it, but that is at worst enough to bring it down to like a 9.5 instead of a fucking 11.
Yeah.
This movie is incredible. If you like animation, if you like movies, go watch this movie because it is a beautiful, well-made movie. I love it. It's awesome. It is well worth your time. Go buy it on Blu-ray and watch it on the biggest, highest def TV
We
you
did?
have.
Yeah.
Because it deserves it. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. I loved it.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Since we both had saw it before, and
Yeah.
when we saw it in the theater, I was crying. I was like, Scott, hold me. I'm glad you liked it too. That was, it's so good.
Now, can we talk about the fact that if there was a 3-year time difference, that the weeks wouldn't have lined up?
There are a lot of things
Yeah,
about
no.
the mechanics here that fall apart if you look at them too closely.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, but don't.
Yeah.
That's not what this movie's about.
Nope. So thank you again for joining us for Anime FMK Goes to the Movies.
Yep, we will see you next time at the movies, and we will see you next time we do our weekly show, which we're going to start recording in just a few minutes here.
I'm gonna take a whiz.
Hooray!